learned was the concept that even though it's Yayin Nesach, nevertheless, if you know, giving a gift to a guy, if you know for sure the guy does not in any way follow Avodah Zarah, then you can give him a present even on their holidays. The Gemara now tells another story here. We are up to about 7 lines on the top of the page. Rava Amtele Kubona, he brought a gift lebar shishach. He brought a gift to Bar Shishach b'yom Edom on the day of the holiday. Omar, he said, even though we learned in the beginning of the Homa Sechta that you don't give them because they're going to go and thank their gods, for this, for these fortunate gifts. He said, I'm not worried. Doesn't believe in Avodah Zarah. No, also this guy, so I'm not worried. He'll go thank his God. Also, he went. Ashke, he found the Yosef Ad Savare. He was sitting in a bath till his neck, beverde with roses. The Kaiman Zainis Arumas Kameh, and he had a whole bunch of this Bar Shishach, had a whole bunch of harlots all around him. This is where the 70 virgins come from. And he was taunting your brother. You think you're going to have such a wonderful Gan Eden like me? Look at this. I'm enjoying myself over here and down here better than your Gan Eden, what you always worry, you're always preparing to have a wonderful Gan Eden. So Rabbi said to him, our Gan Eden is even greater than this. What could be better than this? So Rabbi said to him, you have to constantly fret that you have a superior, a king who knows what kind of orders he'll give you. And now in Gan Eden, we have no fear of the Malchus. He said to him, what fear do I have? I'm Baruch Hashem good. I'm a choshev person. I have a good life. Adi Yasve, and while he was sitting and having this discussion, suddenly some agent from the king came with a message for Bar Shishach. Stand up, the Kabbalah Malka, the king needs you, and suddenly he had to interrupt all of his pleasures to go and follow the king. So Rava's words proved correct. Kinofik v'Ozil, when he went, Amalei said to him, the Bar Shishach said to Rava, my eye, I was looking to criticize you. Tifaka looks like it'll be pulled, it'll be gouged out because you guys always win. Amen. And by Rava saying Amen, he turned it into a curse. Suddenly his eye popped out. That's the story there. But the idea of the story is that Avodah Zarah, if you know the person is not an idol worshiper, then some of these didn't don't apply. But a puppy says a puppy, and this is the basis that we say that today things are much more relaxed. A puppy in the Western world. A puppy, you should have said, the Rabbi should have said, you want to know what Gan Eden is? Ma'ikra, I'll tell you, it's better. Talk to him in his language. He spoke to you as if Zayn, this is the ultimate. Speak to him in his language. Tell him it will come, Mashiach will come. It'll be Benois Melachim Bikresecha, that the princess are going to serve you, give you covered. Nitzvah Shagol, that the queen will stand there, Limincha, your right side, Bekesa Meifer, wearing gold and everything else, draped in gold. You're going to have all of these people serving you who are, with covered, not degrading. Oh.
Most of the times, as soon as he mentions him.
Another thing could have said, okay, you think, in other words, that puppy said, talk to them in their language, in a language that he can understand, a physical language. Rabbi said, you don't have to, but to illustrate to him how wonderful it is. Amos and Malchus is sort of is really basic. Tell him, you should have said to him what we learned in Chassidus so much on the pasuk Mahacha Ayin Leiras Alakim, that no eye saw the Eibush Zul Ascha and Yasel Mechkelei, and you'll give that to those who wait for you, who believe in you. So anyway, he said you're not allowed to hire somebody to work with you on Yain Nesach, your wages are forbidden. We said yesterday it's a knas, a penalty that for working in Yain Nesach. But if you had a full-time job and then in the middle of the Asher, do me a favor, transport this barrel from here to there, then you're allowed to accept that money. Says the Gemara, the Gemara says, if you tell me, he said, I'm giving you $100 for the day. He finishes his job for the day, 5 o'clock, and then he says to him, he owes me the $100. Then he says, do me a favor. I said, why are you going there? And you go home, take this barrel and move it there. Okay, so there, none of the money that you're receiving has any connection to the Yain Nesach. But from the Mishnah, it sounds like even 12 o'clock in the afternoon, middle of the day, he says to him, stop what you're doing, take this barrel. The few dollars that he gets for that 20 minutes, you can accept. Why? The Avagav the Lama, he didn't tell him to taste the at the night after he finished his job. But I mean, we learned elsewhere in the Braisa, a guy hires a worker. Uli toise erev at the end of the day. Amalai, he says, I want you to ferry across this barrel from here to here. Schare mutter. The schar is mutter. Timer, the whole reason is Amalai said to him, the only reason why it's mutter is because he told him the day's over. But during the day, you're not allowed to because he's going to get a few dollars for the work. Omar Bye says, you're right. Ki Tanan, Nami Masnisin, the Omar Litoise Ereb. Tanan. Imagine our Mishnah added those words in. That when does the Mishnah say that if he asks you to transport the barrels, it's all right, and you're allowed to keep the wages? It's talking about where he said to him after he finished his day job, okay, do me that favor. Rabbi, however, says, I'll give you a better answer. Rabbi says, nothing to do with even during the day. Like kosher, if he told him, I want you to transport me 100 barrels, the mayor prutas for 100 prutas. In other words, it's like a contract job. You're not going to get paid the 100 prutas till you move all 100 barrels. Turns out to be that one of the barrels is yain nesa. Comes out that, and Kolzman, you didn't transport that one barrel, you don't get any of the money. So the entire lot of money is connected to the barrel. To that barrel yain nesach. So let's say it was only one barrel out of $100. So $1 of it is usher. You have to throw it out. He said to him, he said to him, each barrel you take is one pruta. So therefore, there's no yain nesach over here. Each barrel is independent of the next barrel. So the Gemara, Tanya, we learned the Braisa. I saw it as a pile hired a worker. They told him there's another Gemara. Oh, sorry. I said I heavily may carry for me 100 barrels, the mayor prutas, 100 prutas. But besides chavish, one of them is yain nesa. You're not allowed to tie $100. Sorry, I said it wrong before. The tie $100 is also because they're all related to the yain nesach. But if you said to him chavish pruta, each barrel is $1, and then it turned out to be when taz chavish yain nesach, and one barrel was yain nesach, schare mutter, because except that $1 for the barrel, the rest is mutter. We're 3 lines in the wide lines. So we're going through our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said if you hire somebody to work for you for yain nesach, the wages are forbidden, and we concluded because of a knas. But if you hire them for the day, and then in the middle of the day he asks you to transport something, that's all right. And then they want to explain why that's all right. It should also be a problem, and we have 2 answers, Abai and Rava. But now the Mishnah continues and seems to replicate or repeat the same story, but using a different thing. You hire somebody to transport on a donkey, and we said there the same thing. That's if you hired him specifically to transport yain nesach, and I'll take the wages, and I'll take the. But if he hired him to for himself, and meanwhile he puts on the donkey a barrel, that's no problem. You can get paid. Says the Gemara. So it's the same principle, right? It depends if you're getting paid specifically for that job or not. What do you need this case for? We just said the same case, same thing. Principle the same. And the chiddush here is sefer itzrechalei. The chiddush is a sefer where it says if he hired it for him to ferry him across, and then when you ferry him across, you took barrels and everything else. You're allowed to take that schar. You're allowed to take that wages, because I'm not getting paid for the barrel. I'm getting paid for you. You just took the barrel with you. Even though the guy took his barrel on it and was yain nesach there, schare mutter. Because you hired it for you, and it's not common that you take a barrel of wine with you, and therefore that wasn't part of the deal. Not that I stopped you, but it wasn't part of the deal, so therefore the money I can keep. The memrasa comes from here. The login lav dinuhul. It sounds to me that it wasn't part of the deal because normally people do not take a barrel. I'm hiring it for you. That you should give. I should transport you, and therefore I'm allowed to take the money because the entire money is for you. Login is a log. Your log is a barrel of wine. That's whatever it is. Yeah. So so it sounds like from here when you hire a car, it's only for you. You can't use the boot. So I ask a question. I ask a question. It says hasoichel as a chamois. When you hire a donkey, automatically you're allowed to bring your wares with you. It's not just you. If somebody hires a donkey, soichel, and so you have here the person who's renting, who's hiring, and he's sitting on the donkey, and then you have the person who's walking with it and leading it. So he says, "Yeah, soichel the chamois. Soichel. What rights does the soichel have? Is it just for himself, or can he add some other things? So he can bring his clothes. He can bring a barrel with him. How can you go without your barrel of wine? And food shall oyster there the entire trip. If it takes a week, he can have a week's supply of food. So clear from here that when you hire a donkey, not just for you, it's also for your wares, including a barrel. So l'chayda, how come you could take the money for the donkey when you took the barrel with you? L'chayda, part of that money to cover the barrel. So l'chayda is yain nesach money involved here. But they're interesting. Anything more than that, the guy who's riding the donkey say, "Hey, there's no room anymore. I got to put some of my things there as well." What can the chamor put on it? Chamor he could put there the food that you have to feed the animal only for the day. The guy, the soiche, can have enough food and provisions the whole entire trip, but for the animal, only for the day. The driver, the one's ferrying it, the one who's the one who's doing the work. Any more than that, it says I need the room for my things. And then from here, why we bring all this at the moment? We bring it to prove that you cover also the luggage. I'm going to buy any luggage. You're right. You could put the barrels there and so on. The difference. So how come the money then that he paid for the donkey doesn't include also the barrels? So it should be a problem. You have some yain nesach money in there, some wages for the yain nesach. The rent for the yain nesach. What happens if he didn't take a barrel with him? With the guy who rented it, say, take off, you charge me $100, but I'm not taking any barrels with me, so you charge me $90. If you would have said that, that means definitely part of that money is designated for your luggage. But since it makes no difference, you still pay the same amount, whether you have the luggage with you or not, whether you have the barrel with you or not. Is a raya, none of the money that you're paying, the money, he has a right to take it with him, but it's like for free. You're paying for yourself. And then you have an ancillary fee you can take with you, but that's not included in the money. If you break down the money, you won't write and $10 for the barrel. So now the one said, okay, let's not go focus back on the Brais. So what's going on here? The soiche can take enough food for the entire week, and the chamar, the one who's leading the donkey, can only take for a day. What's going on here? What's the logic in that? If there's food available as they're traveling wherever it is, then chamar namilakiv. Why can't the chamar say to the soiche, "What do you have to bring all this food for a week's supply? Buy a day, and then you'll buy on the way weiter, and you. Why should we take up all this room? It's a heavy load for the donkey to have all this extra load. What for?" And if the reason is because there's no food available, so the Seicha wants to make sure he has enough food for the entire week. No, so Seicha Namalakas, how can Seicha tell the Chamar, but you can only take for the day? What's the difference? Amar Papa, like Seicha, you know what I'm talking about here? The Shchiach Lemitrich or the Mizben Ma'avna La'avna. You could buy from hotel, wherever they stay at night, from hotel to hotel, and you can buy. But it's a big tircha. So the chamor, the one who's leading the donkey, that's what he does. That's his living. He goes, that's he travels, so he knows how to do this. This is his part of his routine. So for him, it's common. So you have a right to say to the chamor, yeah, but it's also for the donkey. He has to bring food and fodder for the donkey. So chamor, we say, that's what your job is. That's what you do. So therefore, you take a daily supply. Or the seichel, once in the blue moon, he goes on a trip, he doesn't have to be much there. This is very interesting, as Tracy points out. Avu, the father of Rav Acha, Bered Ravika. Now, who is the father of Acha, son of Ravika? Ravika. So Tracy wants to know, why don't you just call Ravika? What do you say, the father or the son of Ravika? It's obvious. Rav Acha Bered Ravika was a big American. Everyone knew who he was. And Ravika himself, no one knew who really was. So his schus is, like somebody told me a few weeks ago, oh, you have the schus of being the father of my son. You have the schus of being his father. Same thing over here. Ravika's whole schus was that he had a son called Rav Acha, who was brought down many times in Gemara. Anyway, so the Gemara says, another place. Yeah, sorry. He went. What was his job? His job was he would sell wine to goyim, and his job was he had the wine in a barrel. He would take the barrel and pour the wine into their canteens. You know, it's his wine. Yeah, to goyim. Well, depends. Even though he's a little, where the din is a stam yainim or yain is awesome. But the point is, pouring his wine into their night. So the wine is kosher until it lands into the canteen. In the canteen, they would have a little bit left, residue of stam yenim or yain nesa from before. But he's pouring in wine into their thing. He would pour wine into their things. He would sell them the wine, and that's how it used to be. That he had to do all the pouring. That was part of the service when you sell the wine. What's called? And now what happened was they bought the barrels from him. They bought a barrel of wine. So what he did was he didn't give them that barrel of wine. He would then take the barrel and pour it into all these things, and then the barrel belongs to them, and they would then give him the barrel as payment. Gemara says, and then part of the service was, but he would take all these canteens, all these things, and jugs, and he would put on a ferry and take it to the other side of the river and bring it to their stores, let's say, wherever it is. The Agra. And what did they give him in return for wages? The barrels, the original barrels. Also, I'm going to tell what's going on here. It's not a problem. The barrel didn't become usher, so when he took the wine and he poured it into this thing, it's still kosher wine. It's only after it lands in these canteens. And then all the Rishonim talk about is what about nitzuk and bechuber? What about that? And so they want to say either that it was actually clean these barrels into Yerech, and therefore there's no real nitzuk. Different answers. Okay, thinking about right. I'm like, okay, the best what about the other issue we brought up a few days ago? He wants that the canteen wine should stay in the canteen, because if these little canteen would break, he would then have to take these barrels that they're going to pay him with, use it to catch the wine, and then they won't pay him anything because they paid him back these barrels. But if they need the barrels then to catch the wine that's falling out of because the canteen's broke, and he gets nothing. So he's davening. I hope that the canteen stays intact so that I can get my barrels getting paid. So right to be human. And we learned the last few days that right to be human about is forbidden. But right to be human, the line is he doesn't want that these little canteen leather pouches should be destroyed. So the Gemara, the master Bahadayu is talking about that he made a tonight with them, but regardless, they're going to pay. So it makes no difference. Or, what they did was they brought other pots and pans or other barrels, these buyers. So if their canteens break, it doesn't make a difference because they'll catch the wine with their other barrels. He'll get paid regardless. So there's no rates in the kiyum over here. What about the other problem? Isn't he transporting, now that it's sitting in these jugs, he's transporting it in this ferry and he's getting paid for the transport of the ferry as well. No, he's getting paid. That mamish is money of Yayin. How can he do that? Once the wine is inside their pouches, it's also because it's residue from the Yayin. And he told the people who run these ferries, they cut it from the beginning. He said to them, when these buyers go on the ship, I don't want you to charge them anything. Whenever they go, don't charge them. So it's for free. So there's no money coming in for the ferry trip. In other words, this is part of the service. You pay me for the wine $100, and for that, I'm going to pour it into your things, and you'll get a transport. But that's for free. I'm not charging for that. Or the Nikita Bekiti, he didn't make up the Chatchila, but he had some kind of a simon that he makes a simon to the thing that you shouldn't charge them at all. and or has nothing to do with me. I'm not involved, and therefore he's allowed to take the money. Mishnah. We are now going to go soon into concepts that we learned in Smicha, the Yerdea, about taruvis and all that. Mishnah. Yain has another. If wine fell on grapes, all you have to do is wash them off. Yain stam yenim or yain fell on grapes. Just wash them off, and then mutaris, no problem. There was slits in the grapes. Then the wine got absorbed inside the grapes. Then obviously, as soon as it is asur. No, figs, or dates. If there's a flavor of the yain in those dates or figs, it's asur. Then the Mishnah brings the story. Sounds like it's also. Yet the Mishnah brings the story, which is contrary. And the Gemara will explain that. He bought these dried figs. Gregulus are dried figs. Chrysevis is dried dates. Dried figs. And Bisvin on the ship. And a barrel of yain fell on top of these dried. A minute ago you said yes, but it's also here the matter. The Gemara will explain some words missing in the Mishnah. That cloud, this is the rule. That if you can enjoy the taste of Isa b'neisatam, and then we say that shishim today. If you don't know, you say 60 times. Is permitted. You're going, for example, in other words, if it's not adding flavor, it's neisatam levgam, either bottle b'shishim or the flavor is there, but it's ruining it. Then it is mutter. For example, when is it ruining it? If chaymetz, if vinegar shenafel falls in, it falls into beans. It doesn't add faket. It diminishes the flavor, so then that's mutter. First thing I want to ask a question right away. Ma'isa lista, you bring a story that you said yeah, it's also about no. So then you bring a story where they told the Rabban told them the wife fell on it. No problem, it's mutter. Makes a few words are missing. If the flavor that it gives, the bad one, the mutter. Well, my son based on his own, maybe Greg is misfit. He was bringing these dried figs in the ship. Why? Because it ruined it. Didn't make it any better. Then how can it was this pile the chit of wheat, the nuffle alech habisay. That's the pile of wheat that Yain is Shadi Rava. So Rava said you're allowed to lezvuni levegacham. A Eid is not allowed to eat it because there's wine there, but it's not also bahana in this case here, and therefore you're allowed to sell it to a guy. You're allowed to sell it to a guy because there's no problem. You're allowed to have enough. Right? The Gemara, people see the wheat, they won't know. Or if he turns into bread, they won't know there's yain nest there. Why aren't we worried that the Eid will end up buying it? It says they had a begit that had climb, but you can't see it. Nobody knows where the climb is. Now I'll sell to a guy because we're scared the guy will turn around and sell to Yid. He won't know there's a climb there. All the Rishonim ask an interesting question. If there's a baggage of a climb, there's a thread there of wool, let's say the linen, or thread of linen in the wool, why don't you say bottle b'roiv? You have a concept bottle b'roiv. So they all give the same answer.
What's matir? The cotton by itself without the.
But what's the matir in here? Now it's also and you don't know where that string is. That's not Doshim Matir. Doshim is the future. You're talking about the past. So they all answer the same answer. And the answer is wool on its own is permitted, linen on its own permitted. The whole Easter is mixed together. So what do you want? You want to use the mixing together to make it mutter? So right about what's the obvious question? Basar b'chalav. And we say meferish that the milk, a tip of chalav that fell into a pot of meat is basar b'roiv, a basar b'shishim. But the whole Easter basar b'chalav, meat and milk, is only when it's mixed on its own, so mutter. So they all answer the same answer. I don't know, Taisus, but everyone answer, and the answer is because the Torah clearly says 3 times to tell you that derech bishul asla Torah. That means the normal way of cooking, where it gives flavor. Where it doesn't give flavor, then it's not the way you normally cook. Why would you put something in that doesn't give any flavor? No, the Torah allowed bittul b'roiv by basar b'challah, but not by klai. Anyway, so what does he mean? We're scared that the guy would turn around and sell to a yid. Don't make it for a zotl, don't make it for a saddle for a donkey. Why not? Because we're scared that if, let's say, your shirt, you're allowed to sit on Avodah Zarah, on climb. It's only if you're loyali and shouldn't wear. There's a gzeira chachamim sitting on climb, even 10 mattresses on the bottom of climb. We're scared that a thread of the climb will break out and land on you. Here we wouldn't go. But the problem is, the reason we should make the saddle is in case your shirt tears or something, you'll tear a piece of the saddle off to sew it onto your shirt. So that will be able to climb. You're allowed to make a tachrichin for a meis mitzvah. This is the sugi we'll have a need of samachal beis machlekes of Yana and Rabbi Yechanan. If mitzvahs betelus la'asud love, if there are no mitzvahs in the future, when you wake up, then you could put them climb when they mace. But if you hold that mitzvahs not betelus love, when they wake up, you have to make sure that there's no climb there. And yeah, while they passed away, just my mace mechavshi, in order to talk about, you're not allowed to poke fun, you're not allowed to tunta, you're not allowed to point out whether in the whole shak will tell you whether we put on tzitzis by a mace or not, and we'll talk about it. We had it in Bracha of Yeches, but we'll talk about it in other places. Shabbos, Samas, but we'll also learn in Nida of Samachal. So we'll get there, we'll talk about it then. in Mitzvah, the very end of Shas. Anyhow, my time alone. Why can't you sell to a guy? Because he must lose Yisrael. Because he might turn around and sell it. The guy will sell to a Yid, the climb. He won't know. No, Yisrael sitting over here. How can the Rabbi say give the wheat and then the bread, everything else, the yain to a guy, but he might turn around and sell to a Yid? So so Gemara says, Hadar, Rabbi changed his mind. We have many times Rabbi changed his mind. Exception was a few days ago, he didn't want the two Amoraim to know that he changed his mind, so he gave him a whole story and he twisted his words around. And we spoke about it then. Anyways, what he said was he permitted lemitchinu to grind it, lemefinu, and to bake it, and to sell to goy. Sell them a whole bread. But shalei b'fnei Yisrael, not in front of a Yid. No, technically, if a Yid ends up buying it, he's allowed to buy it. Because place brings a arrive from here, you look at the first place of point of contact where it was made. Here, if you sell it to a guy not in front of a Yid, Yid won't buy it because it'll be pasakum. So that's why we sell them as a bread. And Yid, no, if you sold him as wheat, he might turn around and sell to anybody, and a Yid might buy it. You'll not buy wheat, no problem. Bake it and everything else, give it to him as a loaf of bread, and then no Yid will buy it from him, so no problem. But make sure no Yid saw you, because if a Yid saw you, they'll say, even though it's from Yid. So here's a raya that if it was baked by a Yid, given to a Goysha bakery, the bakery, a Yid is allowed to buy it. That's not called pasakum. Pasakum, we don't look at who the last point of contact. We look at where it was made to engender that social cohesion. It's only where who produced it, who put the effort in. So anyway, so now we learned yayin netzach shnogam wine that fell on top of grapes. You rinse them, but they were split asudas. It seems from here mevukois only if it's split is asa. She'em mevukois loy, but if it's not split, no. So how come you just said that the wine fell on the wheat? It's a problem. What's a problem? It's only a problem if there was cuts in it and cracks. But by wheat, if it's whole, there's no cracks. So why should be a problem? Just rinse it off. Why are you making all of these rules that you have to bake it and then give it to a guy not in front of a Yid? Amra Papa, wheat is different. Shiny chite, wheat is different. Hoyel agav tziraya, because of the shape, the way it is, there are cracks in the wheat. Kimavukoy dominant, no different than splits in the grapes. Now the Gemara starts a new sugya. So maybe we'll wait till tomorrow.